Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than what I usually do. Typically I teach songs or I post covers in the form of shorts usually, but today I wanted to talk about something a little bit more general. It's a question I get quite a lot, and it's whenever a beginner, either somebody who recently started playing or somebody who's been playing for years and is just struggling to get to that next level, has the question of just how do I improve? How do I sound better? How do I stop missing notes? How do I play faster? Often the most obvious answer for this question would just be practice, but there are some more practical tips that you can implement in your practice for things that you may not be noticing and things that can hinder your playing. There are 5 things that I believe will help you break through and get to that next level, so let's go ahead and get into it. So the first tip is to prioritize tone, timing, and accuracy over speed. Banjo music in its nature has parts that are easy and parts that are harder. And something that I see all the time from beginners, and I was guilty of it as well when I was starting, is they will play the parts that are easier super fast. They'll just rush through it, and then once the song gets to a part that's a little bit harder, they'll slow down, they'll miss notes, and it just doesn't sound right in general. It's really important to make sure you have everything right before you speed it up, because if you don't, you're solidifying those bad habits into your playing, and they'll be really hard to break later. When I was getting started, I was known as a bit of a speed demon. I would play everything pretty much as fast as I could, or close to as fast as I could. I put no thought into taste. I didn't care if I was missing notes, and honestly, I didn't even know I was missing notes. But I do have some old videos from back then, and I watched them. Things are out of time, they're out of tune, there's missed notes, and I didn't even notice. And I see this from other beginners as well. And I think a big reason for it is that they want to play fast, they want to impress their friends, so the parts that they can play fast, they rush through it, they play it super fast, but it's often sloppy, it's missing stuff. So it's really important, again, to play slowly until everything's correct. And tip number 2 is to pay attention to your hand position on the head. This is another thing I see all the time from beginners. They don't know why they're not sounding very solid, why their tone isn't sounding like one of the banjo masters. And that's because they're not playing on the appropriate part of the head for the sound they're wanting. Where you put your hand on the head drastically changes the tone. I'll show an example real quick. But the key here is just being mindful of it and knowing where the different hand positions are to get different tones. Tip number 3 is to know the technical stuff. That's like rolls, chords, licks, stuff of that nature. Now, you don't have to be a music theory master. I'm not a music theory master by any means. But it's important to know what the different rolls are, how they work. It's important to know what chords you're playing. It's important to get an understanding of different licks and how they work in different places. That's important for improvising later on. So if you're looking at a tab and just copying the notes and you're not identifying the rolls, you're not identifying the chords or the melody or any of that, that's not really helping you. You're just playing robotically. And the goal is not to play robotically, it's to get to where we play musically, where we understand how the music works, so ultimately you'll be able to come up with your own stuff. For example, whenever I get a new student, typically I will teach them some rolls, then I'll teach them some chords, get them comfortable with that, and then I'll teach them a simple song like Cripple Creek or Banjo in the Hollow, and I'll point out how each of those rolls or chords fit into it. So they know what they're doing. They see where the G is, they see where the C is, they know which rolls they're using, they know which licks they're using. So they see how all those building blocks fit together, and then they can take those and put them in other things. So basically just learn your rolls, learn your chords as much as you can, learn the different chord positions all over the neck, and these things will just become easier over time. And especially whenever you're learning something new, sit down and just dissect it, figure out what everything is, how it all fits, and how you can put it in other stuff. Tip number 4 is to play with a metronome and with others. This is huge. It helps so much with timing. Timing is one of the hardest things in banjo. It's something that even experienced professionals can struggle with at times. Playing with others is also huge. If you go out to jams, other people can give you pointers. You can take licks from them. It'll help you with timing. It'll help you with volume. It'll just help you a lot, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good way to make new friends. It's a good way to get out and just do something you enjoy. Tip number 5 is to listen to great players. Listen to old bluegrass music like Earl Scruggs, Don Reno, listen to the Osborne Brothers. And then you can even get a little bit newer like J.D. Crowe, and even newer than that, Bela Fleck, Noam Pikelny, some guys like Tony Trischka, Ryan Kavanaugh. It's just a great way to hear a lot of different styles, to figure out how banjo is supposed to sound in a band, what will be expected of you. Listening to great players on a regular basis and just studying how they sound and letting that influence you is a great way to quickly improve. Earl Scruggs is basically the gold standard in traditional banjo playing. So if you listen to a lot of Flatt and Scruggs music and you learn his licks, you learn the way he thinks and the way he goes about playing things, and you let that influence you, that'll make you a great banjo player. So again, the traditional stuff is essential, but you can also find some newer stuff you like, such as Allison Krauss in Union Station. Ron Block's a super solid banjo player. He plays a lot of bendy stuff that kind of sounds like something you'd hear on an electric guitar. J.D. Crowe did some stuff similar to that, but Ron took it to another level. And then if you get more progressive, you've got Bela Fleck, Noam Piccone. They play some stuff that's pretty jazzy sounding, or rock, or pop. Pretty much anything they want to play, they can do it. I personally love all these banjo players. It's a pretty heated debate sometimes about traditional versus progressive. I really like them all. A good banjo player is a good banjo player to me, and I listen to all of them. I try to let all of them influence my playing. So don't compare yourself to these people, because that can get kind of depressing. They're literally the best of the best, but let them influence you. Learn their licks, learn how they think, and who knows, after decades of practice, you might be on that level. And something that I want to add in here is that one of the fundamentals of bluegrass banjo is wearing your picks. So I've heard a couple of people online, not very many, but just a couple, say that you don't need to wear the picks, that they're not necessary. I strongly disagree with that. They are very necessary for the tone, for the volume. There are a couple exceptions where maybe if you play at home, you don't aspire to ever play with others, and you just want to play some music on the banjo that you may not actually need them. But if you want to sound like a professional banjo player, if you want to get the tone, the volume that you would need to play with anybody else, or even if you're making recordings, if you want to sound like an authentic banjo player, you do need the picks. And honestly, they're not that hard to get used to. Everybody's different. It'll be harder for some people than others. But if you just make yourself do it, find a way where they're comfortable, where they're working for you, and just sit there and practice your rolls. Usually even within a few minutes, it'll start to feel a bit more natural. Some people it'll take a little longer, but just give it a few days or weeks and just keep going with it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, I'd really appreciate it if you would give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. That helps me out a whole lot, and I'll see you next time.